Good evening. It's the big CNBC-TV18 exclusive news break now from the Deal Street. Max Financial Services and Max Life Insurance boards are set to hold a joint meeting tomorrow, and sources say they're likely to discuss a potential transaction with Axis Bank. Yash Jain joins us with the details. Yash, what have you picked up so far?
Well, absolutely. It's going to be an important day for Max Financial Services. What we're given to understand from our sources at this point of time is that the boards of Max Financial Services, along with the board of Max Life Insurance, which is the life insurance subsidiary, they've called for a joint board meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. Now, this joint board meeting has been called on an urgent notice by the boards. Essentially, what we're given to understand is that as far as the board meeting is concerned, on the agenda would be a proposal to discuss Axis Bank buying a stake in Max Financial Services. Do remember that this transaction essentially would involve Axis Bank buying a part stake from Analjit Singh, who's the chairman of Max Group, his stake in Max Financial Services. As far as a little bit of context is concerned, Analjit owns about 28.31% stake in Max Financial Services, out of which about 71.54% stake stands pledged at this point of time. So the talks would be around discussing this proposal whereby Axis Bank would buy a stake from Analjit Singh in Max Financial Services. Now, why is this important? As I said, Analjit Singh's about 71.54% stake in Max Financial Services is pledged. This transaction will be a big relief and will actually take the overhang out of the stock, as he'll be able to deleverage his pledged position. We've written to all parties involved in this particular transaction who would be a part of this board meeting, and as far as the response from them is concerned, Analjit Singh, the chairman of Max Group, has confirmed that there will be a joint board meeting tomorrow between the boards of Max Financial Services and Max Life, whereby a presentation would be discussed on the same transaction. But he's also said that he is not at liberty to discuss or comment on anything beyond that particular point. Also, of course, this comes as a follow-up to what CNBC-TV18 had reported on February 7th. We had very clearly said that the discussions between Max Financial Services and Axis Bank are going strong, and we could expect some more headway as far as that particular transaction going forward is concerned.
All right. Thank you very much, Yash, for joining us and putting that story into perspective for our viewers. Let's move on and get you the big international story now. US President Donald Trump is blowing hot and cold just days before he lands in India. He has all but confirmed that any major trade deal is unlikely during this visit, saying he's saving the deal for later. He's also not sure if the trade deal will happen before the US presidential election scheduled by the end of this year. In remarks that underline the complicated relationship between both nations, Trump said, "We are not treated well by India," but he also added that he happens to like Prime Minister Modi a lot. Let's listen in.
We can have a trade deal with India, but I'm really saving the big deal for later on. We're doing a very big trade deal with India. We'll have it. I don't know if it'll be done before the election, but we'll have a very big deal with India. We're not treated very well by India, but I happen to like Prime Minister Modi a lot. And he told me we'll have 7 million people between the airport and the event. And the stadium, I understand, is sort of semi under construction, but it's going to be the largest stadium in the world. So it's going to be very exciting.
All right, so that is Donald Trump saying he's not been treated well by India. That's something he said a lot of times earlier as well. He has used the Harley-Davidson tariffs as an issue, but we believe that the Indian government has made it clear to the US side that this entire perception about high tariffs in India is not correct. In fact, many other countries, including South Korea and Japan, have higher tariffs than India, and India is a developing country, and therefore it needs to be treated differently as well. India has sought restoration of the GSP. This is what top sources of the government told CNBC-TV18 earlier in the day. They also said that poultry and dairy are not sticking issues in the relationship. But yes, the entire trade relationship is complicated, and it has been difficult to arrive at any mini trade deal so far. He also told us, top sources also told us that both Robert Lighthizer, the USTR, and Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal remain in touch, and they have a good understanding now. And the upcoming visit of Donald Trump will in a way showcase India's commitment and also US's commitment to a free trade agreement. So both Lighthizer and Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal will now work for a free trade agreement. Big ticket defense deals are under works. We believe that defense deals worth at least $10 billion could get a push during Donald Trump's visit, and one deal which is worth $2.6 billion for 26 helicopters for the Navy could finally be concluded during Donald Trump's visit. So this is something that we will continue to track very, very closely, and keep watching CNBC-TV18 for more updates on Donald Trump's visit. Now, reeling under the blow from the Supreme Court on adjusted gross revenue, Bharti Airtel, Sunil Mittal and Vodafone Idea's Kumar Mangalam Birla visited the Finance Ministry this evening. The meeting comes at a time when the government is believed to have sought legal opinion on the delay in AGR payments by telecom companies. Speaking after the meeting, Mittal called on the government to provide sustainability to the sector, even as he stopped short of discussing the AGR matter in specific. With the government demanding nearly 40,000 crore rupees as AGR dues, Airtel has made a payment of 10,000 crore rupees. Mittal said that the company is working on calculations of its potential dues.
Honestly, there's nothing specific. In general terms, telecom industry has been in stress for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
This industry is very vital to the nation's digital agenda and for many other industries that ride on it. Employment, government taxes, and the only thing that the government now really needs to focus is how to ensure sustainability of the sector.
How should they do it, sir?
What about the AGR dues?
Given the
What
dues
about the
of the
AGR
telecom
dues?
sector?
I am not, AGR dues I am not discussing anyone. The Supreme Court is dealing with it and we are responding to that. You know, we have made our payments and we are working towards
So
it.
when will the balance payment be made by Bharti Airtel?
We have made a statement that we are working on the calculations as soon as it's ready.
So, but DOT's timeline was February 14th and you've clearly defaulted by not paying the entire dues.
You can talk to DOT on that.
What did you propose to the finance minister, sir?
Nothing that I'd like to discuss just now.
No, sir, but regarding the payments, regarding the dues, definitely the meeting was about the AGR payments.
So did you put forward any proposals on relief be
I
given
wouldn't
to
like to
telecom
talk. Can't talk
companies?
about it just now. So
Sir, did you get any
sometime later.
assurances from the finance minister that
any relief
telecom
is in offering?
companies will be given
Nothing
some
that
relief?
I can share just now. So when I can, I'll definitely tell you.
So, what is the timeline for payment by Voda Idea? You've already paid 2,500.
Yeah.
You've promised another 1,000 crore by Friday, but that's clearly not the entire dues.
So you will be paying
So
1,000
can't
by
really
the
talk
Friday?
about it just now, like I said.
So, can you talk about the stress
ask-
in the
I'm
telecom
not
sector?
going to be able to
As
answer
one of the major
but-
players, can you talk
Correct.
about the
Sir, but
stress
did
in the
finance
telecom
minister
sector?
give you some
That is all in the
indication?
public domain, right? There's no other insight that I can add.
All right, that was Kumar Mangalam Birla. So this is a difficult time for all telecom companies, including Vodafone Idea and Airtel Bharti as well. Now, the telecom department is believed to be awaiting instructions from the Prime Minister's office and the Finance Ministry on the next step. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the government relief, if any, will have to be provided to all telecom companies. Meanwhile, Vodafone Idea soared in trade today on hopes of a breather. Kritika Saxena joins us with more. Kritika, what are you picking up right now?
Well, telecom officials have only been waiting for any kind of clarity from the Department of Telecom, from the Telecom Ministry, and we understand that the DOT themselves are at this point in time waiting for further instructions from Finance Ministry or the Prime Minister's office on what the next step should be on the AGR matter. Of course, the next hearing is also due of the Supreme Court in March, but we have been trying to independently understand the conversation between Vodafone Idea and the Department of Telecom. As you know, Bharti Airtel owes about 39,700 crore rupees. Vodafone Idea's due is higher, 56,700 crore rupees. But it's not just that, it's also the fact that Vodafone Idea is at a situation and at a point where the promoters have said that they cannot put in any additional money. Cash reserves are limited. They do not have the flexibility to take any further or any significant loan immediately from the banks. And as a result of that, the financial health and the situation is way more dire. So there have been the conversations, and at various different points there have been indications that the government wants to back a three-player private player telecom market, but there has been a very clear communication made, according to our sources, that the government will not give any specific relief only to Vodafone Idea just because of the financial health of the company. If there was to be any relief, and we're not indicating that there is going to be one, if they were to consider it by way of any kind of relaxation with respect to the payment tenure, by way of any kind of reduction in price, if any of these modes were to be looked at under the purview and the ambit of the Supreme Court's decisions, if there was to be, then in that case it's going to be industry-wide, and it's going to be for all three players that owe AGR to the government. and it's not going to be for Vodafone Idea separately. So while yes, they do recognize that Vodafone Idea is in a definitely in a more financially dire situation than the others, at this point in time, no relief is going to be given just for Vodafone Idea alone on the basis of that.
All right, thank you very much, Kritika, for joining us. Now, the plan is to make financial services more accessible. That's the word from serial investor Sachin Bansal in his first interview after applying for a banking license. Speaking exclusively to Shireen Bhan, the CEO of Navi Technologies added that 80% of the personnel in the banking venture will be techies, and he plans to approach finance with a consumer tech mindset. Here's an excerpt of that conversation.
Universal bank versus a small finance bank, I think this one of the big decisions that we had to take was, do we want to solve for only lower income customers, or do we want to solve for a larger set of audience? The fact is that the problem exists for a very large set of audience. Even I still believe that even HNIs in India don't really get that great service. I think even the problem exists over there.
Are you facing that problem?
I think bank apps, etc., are not the best, right? So even, they can do much better, right? So I would say that, and also the universal bank license gives us the freedom to invest faster, right? And we have the capital, we have the access to capital, we have the ability to raise more money, to be able to invest and scale up faster, and that's what we want.
So are you looking at bringing more investors on board? Are conversations on at this point in time?
There are some conversations going on, yeah.
By when do you hope to close those, and what kind of capital raising are you looking at? What kind of dilution are you looking at?
We can't talk about specifics yet.
Ballpark.
Discussions are still going
Ballpark.
on. Discussions are still going on, I would say. But I think we're looking to bring a couple of more people. And these are not just for money, right? So we can bring in, we have enough capital of our own. I can bring my own capital. I am bringing all of my capital into this business, right? But it's more about bringing in people who have built banks, either in India or outside of India, and who can bring that kind of expertise to the table, right? Not just money, right? So money, I think, is more easily available relatively, but I think it's the expertise which is what we are looking for. I come from a consumer tech background.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about banking, right? So that's something that I'm looking to learn, and I'm learning, although of course there will be a pace at which I will learn.
You know, you talked about talent and people with expertise coming on board. You've already got advisors like Paresh Suktankar of formerly with HDFC Bank, and of course Nachiket Moore, former director of the Reserve Bank of India. Take me through the kind of team that you hope to build around yourself in order for you to be able to meet this objective.
Yeah, I think this is still work in progress, and my thought process will evolve as it progresses further. But we, of course, at the board level, we are trying to bring a diverse set of people who will bring banking and expertise, core banking expertise, along with technology know-how. But in the team, I'm thinking of more like an 80-20, where we'll bring 20% of the people who will come from core financial services background, who have done and who have been in operating roles in these BFSI companies, either in India or outside of India, and then we will pair them up with tech oriented guys who think fresh, who think new, who can think of creative ways of solving problems.
So there's about 100 people already that are working with you?
Slightly less than 100, but we're building the team.
Okay, you're building the team, but what about the app? The speculation is that you were planning to launch the app in April this year. Is that on course?
We're still working on it, yeah.
So that means
will launch,
April may not be the timeline?
We'll let you know when it's ready.
But give me some sense of what that will do, as and when you do
It's a very small first step in the whole financial services journey for us. We acquired a microfinance company, and we are building that further, of course. But apart from that, we are launching some digital lending products on top of that, and we are going to be launching that soon.
All right, that was Sachin Bansal in conversation with Shireen Bhan. Time for a quick break, but coming up, China reports 2,000 deaths and over 74,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus so far. More on that on the other side. The coronavirus outbreak has claimed more than 2,000 lives so far, and over 75,200 people have been infected. In fact, 138 people died in a single day yesterday. Hong Kong has reported its second death, becoming the first country to report 2 deaths outside China. The virus continues to infect more people, with South Korea and Japan reporting fresh cases. CNBC's Eunice Yoon is joining us with the latest.
We hear a lot of messages from the top where they say that things are under control, but then from an on-the-ground level, it's really dysfunctional. So, you talk to several suppliers. Most people that I talk to, I mean, we've discussed this before, say they think the disruption is going to continue into the spring. So, because there's this disconnect and the fact that in China, sometimes we don't know whether or not authorities aren't sharing information at times, or if they actually don't know what the situation is on the ground. So because of that, you're getting this very spotty picture, and it's difficult to say how long the drag is going to be. In fact, Morgan Stanley had a research report saying that they anticipated that if the outbreak wasn't contained in the next 2 weeks, that we could see a spillover effect into the second quarter of all the disruption and impact on the economy here.
All right, thanks Eunice for joining us. Now, the coronavirus outbreak has hit production of key pharma ingredients in China, and countries across the world, including India, are preparing themselves for the potential supply disruption and shortage of these ingredients. Against this backdrop, India is preparing a blueprint to boost manufacturing of pharma raw material. Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant, who is spearheading these efforts, chaired a meeting of all stakeholders today. Timsi Jaipuria has the details. Timsi, what's the update?
Well, that's right. As you said, there was a high-level meeting which just ended some time back under the chairmanship of CEO Niti Aayog Amitabh Kant. Key secretaries from various government offices, be it the Health Ministry, be it the Pharma Ministry, be it the Environment Ministry, Finance, etc., were part of the meeting along with the industry captains. And what transpired in the meeting, according to the sources, was the urgent need that India needs to address is to revive API manufacturing in India. There was a clamor that we should have a policy similar to what the government has recently announced for mobile manufacturers in India to boost that particular sector. Similarly, the industry captains of pharma sector actually said that India should look at a comprehensive policy to boost API manufacturing in India on the similar lines. Meanwhile, sources also indicated that yes, government is very positive on that. Government is already in talks with PMO to come up with such a policy. It could come as early as this year itself, because government is now trying to streamline what could be the benefits and how best to address the challenges that the industry has voiced today to actually shift bases of API manufacturing in India from China, because currently India imports more than 80% of its APIs from China, and the government is very clear to avoid any such situation in future, so that there is no over dependence on any one particular country when it comes to API imports. Government wants to shift that particular sector back to India, because industry did highlight that until the year 1999, India was leading in API manufacturing, and then later on the entire base shifted to China. So government wants to revive that particular sector in India, and government sees that could be a huge opportunity under Make in India as well. Let's see what happens finally, how soon a policy comes out on this behalf.
I think it was a very good, positive meeting. I think government and industry are working very closely together to see how we basically build a very strong pharmaceutical sector that is fully vertically integrated. I also believe that we had a very useful discussion around environmental regulatory issues.
I think the meeting was basically called in to address there could be a future challenge, and if that is so, how does India? So the government has come with a list of about 38 products where industry and government is going to work together to make sure that enough supply is available and the shortages do not occur. Currently, I do not see any problem of shortage. We have enough stocks in the industry of the raw materials and also finished products. Industry usually keeps about 45 days stocks in the market, keeps 30 days stocks in their plant, plus API raw material of 3 months. So for 5-6 months, industry has supply to support the Indian market. So there would not be any challenge of supply. On the same time, creating global capacity and how government and industry can work together to create global capacity for this critical molecule to make sure that in future we will not have any of these challenges.
All right, let's get you more news now. In order to curb air pollution, the Supreme Court has sought government's response to the plan for transition to electric vehicles. During that hearing, Chief Justice of India S.A. Bobde also expressed inclination to have a discussion with Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari, as he observed that the minister had innovative ideas on tackling pollution. However, he abstained after the additional Solicitor General said that it may turn political. as well. Moving on, after facing public wrath for asking 3 Hyderabad residents from minority community to prove their citizenship, the Aadhaar Issuing Authority, in a clarification, said that notices were sent not just to 3 but 127 residents. They also added that the notices had nothing to do with citizenship. The 3 residents were summoned after the UIDAI's regional office received a complaint. Protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act continue in the country. Thousands of protesters, including members of the Federation of Tamil Nadu, Islamic and political organizations, took to the streets in Chennai. This morning, they marched from Kalaivanaar Arangam to the Tamil Nadu Secretariat against the CAA, NRC and NPR. The demonstrations demanded the passage of a resolution against the act in the Tamil Nadu Assembly. The Madras High Court yesterday had denied permission for the demonstration. Good news for people living away from their constituencies. The Law Ministry is working on a note to amend the Aadhaar Act. This will allow the Election Commission to link Aadhaar to voter IDs in a bid to help migrant citizens vote from remote locations. In a letter to the Law Ministry last year, the Election Commission had said it would be in the national interest to link Aadhaar with voter IDs to cleanse the electoral rolls and prevent duplication of voters. Moving on, 3 days after taking oath as Delhi Chief Minister, Arvind Kejriwal met Home Minister Amit Shah at his residence. In his address, Kejriwal had said that he wants to work in harmony with the central government for smooth governance in the capital. Kejriwal has also sought cooperation from the BJP and Congress. Remember, he had said that he has forgiven all remarks made against him in the run-up to the election. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of What's On. Thank you for watching. Up next, we shift focus to Dalal Street. Markets snapped a 4-day losing streak, with the Sensex and Nifty posting their best gains in 2